Hey guys, so today I want to talk about my interactions with people throughout my gaming history. Um, Not really because I want to have these interactions that I get involved in or whatever, but more or less because they're not really fun, and I kind of just have to be subjective, subject to these interactions. For the most part, everyone has their right to do or say what they want. They have their right to be however they'd like to be on video games, obviously, right? However, my interactions are not indicative of my own personal beliefs. At least that's how I feel. Um, Personally, most of these interactions that I have, I feel are very kind. They're genuine. They're pretty chill, right? However, sometimes on my live streams, I do capture moments where there are people who are being completely derogatory to others. Now, I'm only a minute into this video, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about what I plan on doing going forward. In regards to my lives, I think my goal is to try and be a little bit more selective on what I record. However, I record everything that comes across my way. So, pretty much anybody who slights another teammate derogatorily, basically all that stuff. That's on them. That's not on me to moderate. Okay, that is based on the platform and what they choose to allow. Okay, I'm just there to basically witness it. Being subjected to that kind of being subjected to that kind of instigatory kind of that kind of gaming experience is not on. It's just not on me. If I'm being honest with you, I feel that the majority of the time it's people who are just gaming and are trying to get rid of some banter and whatnot. To be honest, sometimes I think they're projecting. Uh, but to be fair, there's a lot of people who may disagree with my choices on how I approach those kinds of interactions. Now, here's the thing: being derogatory is basically your right, right? Like you're allowed to be derogatory. You're allowed to put people down. You're allowed to lift people up. Also, you're allowed to be either way. Um, However, from my experience personally, I refuse to get involved in things that are outside of my realm of expertise. So I don't like to trash talk. I don't like to put people down. I don't like to lift people up either. I don't really conduct what other people do, think, or say. That's not my wheelhouse. Okay. That's not what I intend on doing. Okay. I just basically exist out of spite. But at the same point, I do find it to be a little bland. So sometimes I might I guess you could say instigate, but honestly, that doesn't get any traction on my channel either. So I don't really know. I kind of just make things and hope people like them. However, however, here's the thing. While I can sit around and do nothing, I can let other people report and do other things too. So the thing is that I think that the banter and the people I'm being partied with, or the people who I'm being connected with, and the people who are continuously being instigatory, I think it's on them to realize that maybe they're the ones that are doing all this and are creating a space of hostility. And it's not me. So, that being said, if I'm not doing anything to instigate these things, then why am I being partied up with people who clearly do? I just don't think it's fair. Sure, I mean it's not great, but at the same point, it's also not really it's not right. Okay, so let me back this up. Uh so for instance, when I go ahead and I'm playing games, right? Not always will I be paired up with random people who are, instigatory or derogatory or whatever. Sometimes I actually have some great interactions. I feel as if I have some. However, I also do believe that there is a time and place for being derogatory or instigatory. To me, that sounds like a like a given, right? I have my moments. I'm sure I do, and as well as others. I feel as if everybody has a moment, they should be called out for it and then be, told, that ain't right. But at the same point, I also don't believe that it's everybody's like God given right to shun or shit on other people for, being that way either. So at the same point, I see both sides of the coin, you know? And I think what it comes down to is whether or not you are, I think what it boils down to is whether or not you really want to project those kinds of things into your own sphere of, sphere of what you're doing. Now, I don't like doing that. I don't think anybody else does. I think for the most part, most of us are just trying to just do our own thing and just be chill. Um, However, I think other times there are people who actively want to be the problem and be like, instigatory and derogative and all that other stuff. So here's the thing, like, it is within all your power to be aggressive and derogatory. It is within your power to be uplifting and amazing. However, I strictly go into games, and if I'm streaming, some people are derogatory and come onto the stream without my power or control. I think that's on them, really, or it's up to the platform. I mean, I don't think people who make those slurs or make those derogatory comments or instigatory comments, I don't believe that they have been doing it for the first time that time. So, that being said, why would I be partied up with people of that nature? Sure, it's a right in some areas of the world to be able to do that, but it's also not a right to do so in a heinous manner. I mean, sure, it's protected in some areas, but I think in some other areas it's not. So, that being said, it really is up to the platform to moderate their own player spaces. And honestly, I feel the same way about any kind of like social media platform or social platform or any kind of platform that has a comment section, any kind of platform that has a skip ad section. I think anybody who even runs a blog, basically anybody who has a platform has to be accountable for what is said and done. But it also comes with it the reputation that you get. So if there is a platform like, I'm not even going to list a platform. I really don't want to get on anyone's God given. I don't want to get in on anyone's shit list. But but at the same point, like if you go, I think any place that can be moderated or is social, the account should be held accountable, right? The account that's making derogatory comments, the instigatory comments, should be held accountable. However, it's also considered a, I think, is also considered a. I'm not really sure actually. Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, people just like to get a reaction. I think that's the majority of the reason why people do it. Sometimes people are derogatory back, and that's mostly because they felt attacked. And then some people are very instigatory because they were attacked and they're just trying to, like, flesh out whatever they're trying to flesh out. But to be fair, it makes sense to me that the platform is held accountable for what they are allowing to happen. And honestly, it kind of is one of those things where I'm just like, you know what? It's not in my wheelhouse to do anything about it, but I can. So I'm going to try and explore report options, right? The report options, and see if I can get something with it done, you know? Because honestly, like, if I go into my sphere of like arc raiders, for example, and I come across people who are clearly doing something wrong, maybe I'll just start reporting people and see what happens. Because like if they get their account banned, maybe I'll get my stuff back. that's the that's the hope and dream, right? Because clearly with my skill set, I'd like to get my stuff back. However, honestly, if I'm being totally fair, I think there is a time and place for when you pick your battles, and I'd rather not get emotional over something that seems to be somebody else's battle, even if I don't believe I'm in the right to get involved. So, if I'm in the right to get involved, I think I will step it up. I think I'll step it up. You know, I think overall, talking this out with you guys, I've come to the conclusion that from this point onward, I'm going to report and submit clips and do what I can to battle the onslaught of derogatory and instigatory comments. That's what I think I'm getting out of this talk. I think going forward, I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, but in this sense, I'm going to start doing the right thing and maybe not getting involved, but doing my part to do things correctly. And honestly, I think that's all anyone can ask for anyone who's just going about their day. I think that's the lesson here. I think that's what I'm trying to learn is to face the consequences of a report, but at the same time trying to stay out of things that are not in my wheelhouse or scope of experience. So, going forward, if you tune into my lives, we can all actually get together if you guys want. We can all get together and we can just like have like a debate on let's report them and let's not report them and like basically have like this experience of we will do what we can. I think that'd be kind of fun. I think maybe from this point onward, I'm gonna just do this whole report or let go kind of like content because honestly, gaming should be fun and encountering people who are derogatory, instigatory, and trying to cause fights, they're not that fun to play with. So I think if the platforms that like our creators I agree with me or like GTA 6 or whatever agree with me, I think overall it would be a fun experience. Cuz like to be fair, that should be a subset of gaming if I'm being honest with you. Being able to stand up for your fellow gamer, you know what I mean? Stand up for your fellow gamer, gentlemen and ladies. I'm just telling you, if if we decide one day that we had enough of this derogatory or this instigatory or this banter that isn't really banter, um, I think it's up to us to really police it. I think it's up to us to really do the right thing. So yeah, I think after talking this out and getting this out onto the getting this out to the sphere of things, maybe I'll get some pushback, maybe I won't. But either way, I think I've come to the conclusion that from this point forward, just based on the stuff that I've been coming across and that you've witnessed if you've been a part of my lives or even if you're viewing after the fact, I think what comes down to it is I should probably start doing stuff that, you know, makes sense. So maybe I won't, let people get away with things that are clearly against rules or things of that nature. I don't know. It's a new experience for me. I'm not going to lie. It is a brand new experience for me to be able to say that and do that too. So the next live I do, the next thing I try and accomplish, I'm going to do what I can to do what is necessary for the people I get involved with. And honestly, for content's sake, it's kind of fun. I think the idea of doing all those things is what is important, especially in the gaming sphere. I feel like a lot of people don't really get involved like that. I think the majority of people don't even report people who are being explicitive or being derogatory. I think for the most part, it's up to us as gamers to enforce the rules. So that being said, I have come to the conclusion I will report this part forward, and we will see what comes of it. So, till my next live, I appreciate you guys being here, and I'm glad I got that off my chest because I've been feeling that way for some time. If you liked this video, this one take, this all one without editing kind of content where there's no pauses, there's no breaks, there's no cutting in between sentences, there's a thought process that goes along with it. If you appreciate this kind of stuff, let me know. I would love to get behind your channel too. I'd like to be able to experience what you guys do too. I'd like to see what you guys like to videotape. So if this vibes with you, if this kind of resonates with you too, and you came through the whole process of listening to me basically declare declare my status on how I feel. If you want more of these, let me know. I would like to be able to just say, you know what? Why be a part of the problem when you could be the problem? And I decided to be the problem for people who are derogatory and instigatory. Thank you for watching. This is Manic. Later.